welcome to today's video. Today, we're going to continue talking about life lessons. Let's begin. I want you to please think about some of the life lessons you have learned in your life. Pause the video and write down a few ideas. Great! Now let's go ahead and continue. I want you to please pause this video, choose 3 of the pictures, and write down what you think happened here. Remember to have your ideas before your class. Great. Going to watch the video. Now, think about this. Have you ever do something multiple times even after failing? And why? Great. So, let's read this text and think about the lesson that you think he learned. Yesterday, my friend tried to do some bike tricks, but he always fell. Even though he had been practicing a lot in the past 2 months, he had always failed miserably. He had already been in the hospital 3 times before, but this time he needed to have surgery. So what do you think he learned? Probably that doing bike tricks is not for him, right? Okay, great. Now I want you to please read the text again and find which events happened yesterday and which ones happened before yesterday. Pause the video while you work on this. Okay, let's go ahead and check. Yesterday, my friend tried to do some bike tricks, but he always fell. Of course, this was yesterday. Even though he had been practicing a lot in the past 2 months, he had always failed miserably. This is before yesterday. He had already been in the hospital 3 times before. Once again, this is before yesterday. But this time, he needed to have surgery. This is what happened yesterday. Did you get this right? Great. Now, we're going to be talking about the past. Simple past, past perfect, and past perfect continuous. I want you to please pause this video and identify the tenses in the sentences. Okay, let's go ahead and check. So, let's check the first sentence. My friend tried to do some bike tricks, but he always fell. If you notice here, we're using simple past twice. Tried and fell. Sentence number 2. He had been practicing a lot in the past few months, but he had always failed miserably. If you notice, the first verb, he had been practicing, is using the past perfect continuous. But then we use the past perfect. Had always failed. Next, he had already been in the hospital 3 times before, but this time he needed to have surgery. If you notice, we're using past perfect, he had already been, and we're using simple past, needed. Okay, but how do we use this? I want you to please match the use to each of the sentences. Pause the video, please. Okay, so let's go ahead and check sentence number 1. My friend tried to do some bike tricks, but he always fell. This would be number 2. 2 or more past events, one after the other. So one event happens, and then another, and then another, and then another. Now, sentence number 2. He had been practicing a lot in the past few months, but he had always failed miserably. Here this would be number 1. An event that happened for a period of time before another event. If you notice, the event that happened for a period of time was that he had been practicing in the past few months. And he always failed, that was after, of course. Finally, we have he had already been in the hospital 3 times before, but this time he needed to have surgery, is number 3. An event that happened before another event. So of course he had already been in the hospital before yesterday, right? So this is what happened before. So let's go ahead and continue. I want you to please go to workbook page 20, exercise A. What we need to do here is to identify which event happened first and which event happened second. Please write 1 or 2 in each box. Let's take a look at the example. I was nervous the day of the exam, even though I had been studying for over a week. So obviously, you would study before an exam. So studying for over a week is event number 1, and being nervous the day of the exam is number 2. Let's take a look at number 2. A classmate had warned me about this professor's tests, but I didn't believe him. So what happened first? The classmate talked to me, or I didn't believe my classmate? That's right. First, the classmate warned me about the tests, and then I didn't believe him. Now pause the video and work on sentences 3 and 4. Okay, let's go ahead and check. I asked my friend for help. I stopped her in the hall. In this case, what happened first was that I stopped my teacher in the hall, and then I asked for help. 4. I didn't do well on the exam, even though I had asked the teacher for help. Here, of course, the first thing that happened was that I asked for help, but I didn't do well on my exam. Now, if you notice, the first event, what happened before, is using past perfect or even past perfect continuous. And the second event, what happened later, is using simple past. So remember this. Now, let's continue. Let's go to our student book page 33. Exercise B. Here, we need to complete the anecdote using the verbs in parentheses. Please notice that you need to use the verbs in one simple past and one past perfect in each sentence. Let's take a look at the first sentence. Right before I. Here, I, my job. What happened first? I moved or I lost the job? That's right. I lost the job first and then I moved. So, you should have right before I moved here, I lost my job. Now pause the video and work on the rest, please. Okay? So you should have I hadn't had an interview for weeks, and I was concerned, and I had thought about going back to school, but actually I didn't want to. Not out of the blue, I got an email from an old friend that I hadn't contacted in ages. Did you have the same? Great. Now, let's go to exercise C. Here, it's a very similar exercise. We need to complete the rest of the anecdote using past perfect or past perfect continuous of the verbs in parentheses. Please notice that sometimes both answers are possible. Pause the video while you work on this, please. So, let's go ahead and check. And it turned out that he had started up his own company, but he had been struggling, or he had struggled to find someone to work for him for some time, and he hadn't found anyone suitable. Well, actually, he had hired one woman, but she for the first month because she hadn't been able to travel so much. Anyway, I had been looking for a job in sales, and he offered me the job. So yeah, it's good to keep in touch with people. Did you have the same? Great. So, now for your homework, you're going to be working on workbook page 20, exercise B. We need to complete the conversations with the verbs given. Please notice that you will need to use simple past, past perfect, or past perfect continuous. But remember that sometimes there is more than one correct answer. For example, had you ever... Since we already have past perfect, we're going to use simple past, moved. Yeah, one summer in grad school, I to Argentina and a job on a horse ranch. How can we complete this one? We're going to use simple past. I went to Argentina and I got a job on a horse ranch. Here, if you notice, we're using two simple past verbs because one event happened after the other, right? Now, pause the video and continue with this conversation, please. Okay, we're going to check it during our class. Now work on conversations 2 and 3. We're still working on exercise B, please. Pause the video. Okay, remember to have this ready so we can check together. I will see you during our class. Bye bye!